Hi friends, today I'm going to be spending some time in the kitchen restocking on some of the essentials that we will use all week. So why don't you join me and hopefully you'll get some inspiration for how you can restock your kitchen with some homemade items too. So to start, I'm mixing up my whole wheat sourdough bread. So I make this with French flour and the recipe is slightly different to if you were making it with American or British flour. I have a step-by-step video for this recipe, so you can get more details over there. I will link it at the top of the screen. And I will also link my blog post, which has a lot of extra information in it, in the description box below. The basic recipe for this is 120 grams of the starter, 350 grams of filtered water, 500 grams of whole wheat flour, so that's T110 over here in France, and 10 grams of salt. Because I had a lot of things on my plate this day, I decided to mix it all up in the KitchenAid and only do one stretch and fold, which you will see later on in the video. And my idea was to make it pumpkin shape, and it didn't really work out, so I've put you a photo of some pumpkin bread that I actually did manage to make. But you get the idea, the recipe stays the same, and there are lots of really good pumpkin bread tutorials out there if you want to make a special shape to your bread. So there it goes into the KitchenAid, and if I'm not going to be doing a lot of stretch and folds, I will usually let the KitchenAid run for about 8 minutes. I would do less if I'm planning on doing lots of stretch and folds and coil folds, but 8 minutes really mixes up the dough well, and I tend to find that it doesn't need an awful lot of stretching and folding after that. Now it's going to go into a bowl for the bulk rise, and I will just get to it later when I have the time. The more you make sourdough bread, the more you realise that it can actually fit into your schedule. You really don't need to be chained to the kitchen when you're making sourdough bread. It is very forgiving. As long as you get to it before it's over fermented, then you're really okay. And even if it does over ferment, you can still eat it and it will still be delicious. So if you're hesitant to give sourdough bread a try because you're worried that you're going to be spending all day in the kitchen, just give it a go. You'll see, the more you do it, the more you realise it can actually be quite flexible. The night before I had put this bone broth on to cook, so I'm going to be straining it out this morning. And then I'm just going to put all of the bones straight back into the Instant Pot, add more water and a few extra aromats, and just let it go again for another 4 hours, and that way I get a lot of bone broth, which we will use a lot this week because I'm making a lot of soup and stews, and we also like to drink bone broth on its own for its health benefits. I like to keep my bone broth in jars in the fridge, and it will keep for 5 to 7 days. You can also freeze bone broth. If you're going to do that, make sure you don't fill up your jars too far because otherwise they will split when the liquid expands as it freezes. So as I said before, I'm now going to reuse those bones. This gives a more diluted bone broth, but it's still really good and adds loads of flavour and health benefits to soups and stews. For the aromats, I'm adding an onion, I'm adding garlic cloves, some peppercorns, bay leaves, cloves, the tops of some leek and some celery that I had frozen. I don't add any salt at this point. I like to salt my meals as I'm making them. Now we're on to homemade mayonnaise, which is a new recipe on the blog. I will put the link in the description box below, and is so much better than shop bought mayonnaise. You just have to try it to believe it. Honestly, it takes a matter of minutes, and the health benefits are so much better because you can choose which oil you use, you can choose which vinegar you use, you know where your eggs have come from. Really, give this mayonnaise a try. It is so good and so easy. So I'm using 1 egg, a nice fresh egg, avocado oil, mustard, salt, and about a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Place all of the ingredients in a jar and then put the immersion blender right in the bottom, and as you turn it on, you're going to bring it up really slowly so that it mixes the egg first and then incorporates the oil a little bit at a time. And this gives you such a great texture, lovely thick mayonnaise. Make sure you follow the recipe, because if you don't put enough oil in there, it won't be very thick. I've made that mistake before, but the recipe over on the blog will give you a lovely thick mayonnaise. I wanted to get some snacks made for the children too, just to have on hand so that when they're hungry they can have something healthy and filling to eat. And I love these bacon and egg muffins. I've made them before in a previous video when I did my baking marathon a couple of weeks ago. I will link that at the top of your screen. And if you want some more snack ideas, I have another video about back to school snacks, so I will link that at the top of your screen too. This recipe is based on my tuna and egg muffin recipe, which you can find over on the blog. But instead of tuna, I'm using bacon, which I fry up in a pan. I then add some finely chopped red onion, or any onion will do. I'm going to grate some carrots, which I will add to the egg mixture without cooking them. And the egg mixture is just simply 4 eggs mixed together with a pinch of salt. You mix all of that up, put it in a muffin container, silicone one works the best, and then cook it in the oven for 20 minutes. This gives you a delicious high protein snack that my kids absolutely love. The next thing I'm going to make is some salad dressing. Now this is my go-to recipe and it's evolved over the years, but it's one that my husband used to make early on in our marriage. Basically, it's a teaspoon of mustard, quite a lot of oil. I like to use avocado oil. You can use olive oil, but that would give you quite a strong taste, so I would suggest using olive oil with a more neutral flavored oil if you want to add some olive oil in there. Then you add some balsamic vinegar, and I like to add some herbe de Provence and a little bit of powdered garlic too, and obviously some salt. So I don't have exact measurements for you here. This is really one that we eyeball every time we make it and then taste it to see if the flavors are good. But there's quite a lot of oil in there for not very much vinegar. You can customize this recipe any way you like. You can leave the herbs out and just have it plain oil and vinegar and mustard. You can add soy sauce, which I love to do, and when I do that I like to add a bit of sesame in there as well. You can add honey. You can replace the vinegar by lemon juice or use cider vinegar if you wish. Really, you can get creative and do it any way you like. Just taste it and see what suits you and alter it the next time. So easy to make and really good to have on hand. We like to use it on top of green salads, mixed salads, sometimes in avocados. It's so good, so versatile. I hope you give it a try. Now I'm back to my bread and doing one stretch and fold. That's all I had time for today. It's maybe not got the structure that I would like, but it's still gonna work really well. I just think it's so important with sourdough to not expect to have perfect Instagram worthy bread every time. The most important thing is that you're making something good and healthy for your family that is really tasty. So just keep persevering. You will get there in the end. Sourdough bread is so worth the effort. As I said at the beginning of the video, I wanted to make this pumpkin shaped, so I've got my string out and everything, but I went about it completely the wrong way, so I'm not going to show you because it's really not the way to do it. But it was tasty bread nonetheless, and we ate it all week. Well, thanks for following along with me today in my kitchen as I restocked for the week. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe, like and comment. I make videos every week on homemade food from scratch, allergy friendly meal ideas and lots of sourdough. See you next time. Bye.